Here's another quick ADHD parenting tip. Hi everybody, welcome back to Project Happy Home. For those of you who are new here, I'm Tanya, a doctor, lawyer turned homeschooling mom of 3 kids ages 7, 4, and 2. My 7-year-old son will turn 8 at the end of this month, and he has ADHD. So I started a series of videos just talking about things that I've learned about more effectively parenting a child with ADHD. But I have to say, the more I learn about parenting my son, the better parent I'm becoming to my other children as well, who are more neurotypical. Though I kind of hate that expression neurotypical because I feel like all of us are on some spectrum or another of weirdness, which is a good thing because otherwise we'd all be perfectly normal like little Stepford robots, and we're not, certainly, and different things bother us, and we're all sensitive to different stimuli in our environment, and our brains all work uniquely and differently. And just because my son has ADHD and his set of symptoms have been loosely defined as ADHD, that doesn't necessarily mean that my more neurotypical children don't have their own quirks and personalities that I as a parent can respond to in a more sympathetic and kind way. So really a lot of these ADHD parenting videos that I do are just things that I've learned about parenting in general and things that I am trying to implement in my own life to make the lives of my children and our family life better. I hope that was clear in some way. That being said, as parents of children with ADHD will tell you, it is very challenging to sometimes respond in a patient and kind way to your child when they are hyper emotional or reacting in a completely seemingly unreasonable way to a simple request, or if you've told them to do something 1,000,000 times and they still haven't done it. It requires a lot of you as a parent to just stay calm in that moment and tell yourself, this is not an emergency. My brain is reacting like it's an emergency. It's not an emergency. When they are incredibly upset by a very small reprimand that you might give them, that another kid would just brush off and, go do whatever you said, when they burst into tears or have a complete emotional meltdown about it, it's very hard to remind yourself to stay calm and respond in a really kind and comforting way instead of an impatient, like, you're this age, you should get over this kind of way. And I'm definitely not saying that I haven't done that. Ask me how I know this stuff and ask me why I try so hard to learn how to be a better parent. It's because I fail so many times, you guys. So it's really important to have some sort of simple thing that you can hang on to in your head to just remind you to calm down and approach your child with empathy and kindness every time. So when you're faced with a strong-willed child or a child with ADHD or any special needs child or neurotypical child who's just having like an inappropriately emotional reaction to something or just is unbelievably disobedient sometimes, it's important to have that simple saying that you can rely on, like simple phrase. I know some Christian friends of mine use like a parable or just like a verse or a psalm just to hang on to, and mine is a really, really simple one. Usually I just repeat to myself, let them be little, let them be little. But the one that I've come up with recently on my own is ABC. And it's just a little acronym to remind myself, before I even go to their rooms in the morning, before I encounter them, before we start our homeschool day, before I have to usher them into the car, before I go into their rooms at the end of the day, knowing that I'm probably going to encounter a giant mess. What I tell myself is ABC, and it simply stands for ask like you're asking the first time. Every time. Ask like you're asking the first time. So you might have told your child, eat your breakfast 10 times already. You might have said, drink your milk, drink your milk, drink your milk. Or you might have said, pick up your toys. It's time to pick up your toys. Let's get started with that math. Let's go on to the next problem. Let's get going. And each time it's really easy the second, third, fourth, 20th time to snap it out. Like, drink your milk, put on your shoes, get in the car. It's really easy to say those things in that tone. But if you can remind yourself, A is for ask like you're asking the first time. So ask with the same patient, kind voice that you asked the first time. Because a lot of times children with ADHD especially might not have heard you the first time, especially if they're occupied with some other task that has captured their attention. Or they might simply not be listening, and not in a rude or disrespectful way. They just haven't shifted their attention to you. So when you've asked it the 20th time, they might literally be hearing it for the first time. So I always try to ask like the first time. Another thing that really helps me is to touch my son when I ask him to do anything. So I make sure that he can feel that I'm requesting something of him. So for my other children, when they're eating breakfast and they have to get ready or finish up their food or start eating their fruit or whatever, I can just say it to them from across the kitchen. For my son, I really try to remind myself to go over to him, touch his shoulder, and ask like it's the first time, because my disappointment or my annoyance affects him more than it affects my other children. And it's also unreasonable when placed on him. And it's not right for me to be as annoyed, because it is very likely that he didn't hear me the other times. So it's my responsibility to make sure that I've done everything I can to make sure his attention is on me when I ask him the question. So A is for ask the first time. B is for believe that they will listen. Believe that you are making incremental change. When you ask, when you request them to do something, don't follow it up with, I've asked you 1,000,000 times. Like, how many times has this happened? Have I asked you this before? Like, when are you going to get this? How old are you going to be? And again, the reason I can think of all these examples is because I've said all of these horrible things. So try to remind yourself. B is for believe in your child. Believe that you are improving your relationship, that you are improving their executive functioning skills, that this will come with time. Their brain is literally not as developed yet as it will be in a little while. It is taking a little bit longer to develop on an age-appropriate level, and that is just proven. So you need to be the adult there. You need to believe that this is happening. They will conquer this particular foible, this particular thing that's hard for them. It will come. This is the 50th day that they haven't brushed their teeth without you telling them. But you need to believe when you ask that this will happen. You need to believe it for your child's sake. You also need to believe it for your own, because it will make you bitter and stressed and just tightly wound, like, why isn't anything working? Believe that they are growing. This will come. It is getting better step by step. The more you can scaffold them, the more you can support them on their way, the better it will be for you and them and your relationship together. And finally, C is a really simple one for me to remember, and it's much harder for me to do. It's just chuck it. Right after this is done, ask like the first time. Believe that change is happening. They can do this. And C, chuck it. Because I understand that when you're asking this, we're not all saints. We're not going to be doing this automatically without any kind of angst inside. It requires a little work to modulate our tone, to ask in an appropriate way, to remind ourselves, okay, this is going to be okay. They're going to learn this. Chuck it after that interaction. You've asked them again, as kind as you can. Brush your teeth, please. Now, believe that this will change, that you are making change, that it will help them, that they are learning. This is coming, albeit slowly. And now chuck it. Release that tension. Release the work it took you to get to that calm voice. Because it does take work. Let's not pretend. This all doesn't come easy. Yes, the more you practice it, the easier it gets. But it takes work. And a lot of times we have a lot of other kids who are doing annoying things at the same time. And like a lot of other things are happening, like in our house right now, we're trying to sell our house, but we don't know if we're moving. And there's always this pressure of keeping the house clean. And then my little girls are very competitive with my attention. Like everybody wants to be on my lap. And there's a lot of things happening. And for me to summon the patience to be kind and gentle with my son, who sometimes overreacts to simple things and doesn't pay attention and isn't able to listen to me the first time, there's a lot of stress built up there. If you can remember, A, ask like the first time. B, believe in them. Change is happening, albeit slowly. And C, chuck it. Take some deep breaths after whatever interaction took emotional work for you to get through. Even if you behaved appropriately, it takes work. It saps your strength sometimes. Chuck it. try to just hide in a pantry for a second. Everybody who's my friend knows my pantry is my safe place. Just breathe for a second. Breathe. Take that second for yourself and just chuck it. Think about yourself for a second. Don't think about yourself as a mom. Don't think about your kids. Just let it ooze out of you, because it wasn't an emergency. It was just brushing teeth or a spilled water bottle, or you're just late for something and oh well, that happens. Try to release that tension and that energy before your next interaction with your kids, because otherwise sometimes it snowballs and you kind of carry it on and you throw your own little parent tantrum. Again, ask me how I know. I'm super good at parent tantrums. But anyway, so that's my simple little acronym to remember before you interact with your kids, whether they be neurotypical or have ADHD or some other special need. A, B, C. Ask like you're asking the first time. B, believe in them. Believe that change is happening. C, chuck it. Take the time to breathe it out. Let it go before your next interaction. So that was my really simple ABC tip for you guys today. I hope it was helpful. If you guys have any acronyms like that or any little mantras or sayings that help you get through the day, I'd love to hear about them in the comments down below. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I wish you the very best day.